Hi, it's Mary, a traditional Chinese medicine tutor and an acupuncturist in Canada.
Today's video will discuss 3 irregular and uneven pulses: hasty, knotted, and intermittent. All 3 have intermittent stops during their pulsations due to the disconnection of the vessel qi, though the length of pause time, pattern, and pulse rate are different. A choppy pulse is also compared to a knotted pulse.
In this part, we are going to discuss uneven pulse. A regular person's heartbeat should be even in terms of interval and strength. Although the heartbeat is always there, it is usually not felt. But sometimes, many people may have such an experience when they are incredibly nervous, excited, or depressed, or exercising vigorously. Their heartbeat suddenly jerks. Gudum. Feels like something goes wrong with the heartbeat, as though a beat is skipped. This is a manifestation of heartbeats with an irregular or abnormal rhythm. As we know, pulse formation is closely related to the heartbeat. Sometimes the human heartbeat rhythm may be disrupted, resulting in an irregular heartbeat. This irregular heartbeat will affect the twinkle pulse and often causes the pulsation to pause or temporarily stop, similar to driving a car but suddenly pulling the vehicle to a complete stop, and then start the vehicle forward again. This sudden pause during pulse beating will present a discontinuous and irregular pulse beating, and this pulse is called an irregular pulse. Here we discuss 3 common uneven pulses: hasty pulse, knotted pulse, and intermittent pulse. All 3 irregular pulses occasionally stop between 2 pulsations, making the interval between 2 pulsations irregular and not of the same pace. The significant differences are the length and frequency of the stop and the pulse rate. There are other uneven pulses, such as choppy pulse, scattered pulse, etc. While we are palpating, we'll not just count the rate, but also pay attention to whether the pulse is even or not. It's also the reason why you palpate the pulse, you need to take time, like minimum 1 minute.
Hasty or skipping pulse.
Skipping pulse or hasty pulse. It feels hasty and rapid with irregular intermittence. It skipped beats irregularly. The features of a hasty pulse are as follows. 1. A hasty pulse moves fast but stops beating occasionally. It looks like it skips some part of beating, so it is also called a skipping pulse. For example, the pulse beating can stop 2 to 3 times within a minute. Thus, a hasty pulse is a rapid but discontinuous pulse. 2. A hasty pulse pause or temporary stop is intermittent without regular intervals. For example, after 10 beats, the pulse comes to a complete stop, but immediately the pulse starts again. Then, after another 15 beats, the pulse comes to a quick stop and quickly begins again until the next stop. 3. The pulse pause period is very short. Immediately after the stop, the pulse resumes to a regular beat until the next pause occurs. The significant difference between a hasty pulse and a rapid pulse is that a hasty pulse is not continuous and has short stops occasionally. A rapid pulse is continuous with no pause. The hasty pulse has 2 types as well. Excess type, you can see yang predominance and heat accumulation, qi stagnation and blood stasis, retention of food and phlegm, and deficient type is the decline of the zangfu organs qi, and the yin blood is insufficient. The appearance of the intermittent stops is caused by the disconnection of the vessel qi. Why is there a disconnection of vessel qi? Generally speaking, it is either due to the vessel qi being blocked by an excess pathogen, or due to the zang organ's qi being so weak, the yin blood is insufficient, and the vessel qi flow cannot be continuous, and a pause occurs. If abundant yang heat accumulates inside the body, or there is heat transformed from qi stagnation and blood stasis, or from retention of food and phlegm. As the heat can accelerate the blood flow, you feel the pulse is rapid. On the other hand, heat pathogens attack the blood, leading to high blood viscosity, blocking the flow of qi in the blood, resulting in the disconnection of vessel qi. Thereby, a hasty pulse present. This is an excess type, and the pulse will be hasty and forceful. When the zang organ's qi is weak, especially the heart qi is weak, one hand, the heart has to beat fast to compensate for the blood needs of the body. That's why the pulse is rapid in a deficiency syndrome. On the other hand, the weak zang organ's qi and the associated insufficient yin blood can lead to the disconnection of vessel qi and thereby the pause of the pulsation. This is a deficient type of problem, so the pulse will be hasty but forceless. In conclusion, a hasty pulse can be seen in both excess and deficiency types. One can differentiate it according to the pulse strength.
Knotted pulse.
Knotted pulse feels slow with irregular intermittence. Knotted, 结 in Chinese character, means a state of unsmooth flow due to obstruction and accumulation. The features of a knotted pulse are as follows. 1. The pulse rate is moderate or slow, and the beating stops occasionally. For example, the pulse beating can stop 2 to 3 times within a minute. The more frequent the pulsation stops, the more severe the conditions are. A knotted pulse is a relatively slow but discontinuous pulse. 2. A knotted pulse pauses or temporarily stops intermittently without regular intervals. For example, after 5 beats, the pulse comes to a complete stop, but immediately the pulse begins again. Then, after another 10 beats, the pulse comes to a quick stop, but quickly starts again until the next stop. 3. The pulse pause period is very short. According to clinical research, a knotted pulse may pause for about 0.4 to 0.6 seconds. Immediately after the stop, the pulse resumes to the regular beat until the next pause occurs. The significant difference between a knotted pulse and a slow pulse is that a knotted pulse is not continuous and has short pauses occasionally. A slow pulse is continuous with no pause. The knotted pulse and the hasty pulse are similar in that both have irregular intermittent stops during the pulse beating. The difference is that the hasty pulse is fast and a knotted pulse is slow. The knotted pulse has 2 types, excess type and deficient type. A knotted and forceful pulse, that's the excess type. If it's excess type, it is due to the yin cold. Why it's slow? Slow is because there's a yin accumulation. Generally speaking, it's like that. So you can expect to see the yin excess and qi stagnation, cold phlegm and blood stasis, accumulation of abdominal mass. Those are all due to the yin accumulation. When heart yang and vessel qi are inhibited, excess yin leads to the cold, and the cold slow down the movement. Cold has the characteristics of stagnation and contraction, making the qi and the blood move slowly and unsmoothly. When this excess yin pathogen inhibits the heart yang and the vessel qi and makes the vessel qi disconnected, a knotted pulse occurs. For the deficient type, there's a severe deficiency of qi and blood. A knotted and forceless pulse can be seen when qi and blood are severely deficient. Heart qi and heart yang are feeble, and there's a disconnection of vessel qi occurs in a protracted disease.
Intermittent pulse.
Intermittent pulse. It beats slowly with regular but rather long intermittence. The intermittent pulse in the original Chinese character is called Dai Mai. Dai in Chinese means take turn and substitute, which is why it is translated into intermittent to emphasize a pulse state of not being continuous. The features of an intermittent pulse are: 1. It is not a continuous pulse, which stops from time to time. 2. The intervals of pulse stop are regular. The pulse beats a fixed number of times and then stops. For example, after every 10 regular beats, there is a stop. 3. The intermittent pulse pause time is relatively long and cannot be restored immediately, unlike the hasty and the knotted pulse, which resumes beating immediately after a short pause. The intermittent pulse can pause up to 1.5 seconds by a clinical observation. The longer the intermittent pulse pauses, the more severe the condition. It should be emphasized that the pulse rate of an intermittent pulse can be fast or slow. The key to determine whether it is an intermittent pulse is to observe whether the pauses of the pulse are regular and the duration of each pause is rather long. When comparing an intermittent pulse with a knotted pulse and a hasty pulse, the intermittent pulse has regular intervals of pulse stop, and the stop is quite long. On the other hand, a knotted pulse and a hasty pulse stop irregularly, and the stopping time is short. The intermittent pulse suggests the exhaustion of the zang organ qi, especially heart qi, or there's a pain syndrome, impediment, obstruction, or B syndrome, or there's a fright and fear. An intermittent and forceless pulse is usually seen in cases of exhaustion of zang organ qi and insufficiency of primordial qi, leading to disconnection of vessel qi, commonly seen in the structural heart disease. When the body's zang organ's qi is exhausted, that is to say, the body's primordial qi is insufficient. Accordingly, the power of propelling the blood circulation is weak, which can lead to the disconnection of the vessel qi and thereby presents as intermittent stops of the pulse. Plus, the stopping time of pulsation is quite long and obvious, and it is hard not to detect the pulse stop. It is quite like an extremely weak person who carries a heavy load staggering in the street and has to stop regularly and take an extended break to gather enough energy to move on. The pulse in this deficient pattern will be intermittent and forceless. The intermittent and forceful pulse, that's the excess type. It can seen in pain, B syndrome, terror and fright, and traumatic injury. It is caused by the pathogenic blockage, qi stagnation, and unsmooth blood circulation, leading to that kind of intermittent and forceful pulse. The reason pain, terror, and fright can lead to intermittent pulse is also due to the disconnection of the vessel qi. In TCM, my dear, excess type of pain is due to the obstruction of meridians and collaterals, and extreme terror and fright can cause qi movement disorders, thus temporarily resulting in the appearance of qi stagnation, stagnant blood, or flame coagulation, which in turn blocks the vessels and makes the vessel qi and the blood circulation inhibited and disconnected. In extreme pain, terror, and fear, or due to traumatic injury, the vessel qi and blood movement cannot connect, and an intermittent pulse occurs. This is an excess type, and the pulse must be intermittent and forceful.
Comparison between hasty, knotted, and intermittent pulses.
Hasty pulse, knotted pulse, intermittent pulse, all of them are uneven pulse. You can find that in terms of the rate, hasty pulse is very fast. A knotted pulse is slow. But in terms of the intermittence, hasty pulse and the knotted pulse has a irregular intermittence. But the intermittent pulse has a regular but rather long intermittence. Intermittent pulse are more severe than the knotted pulse. Healthy people will occasionally have a healthy pulse or knotted pulse. It's mostly functional if there are no signs and symptoms and no history of heart disease. When a hasty pulse and a knotted pulse can occasionally appear in a healthy person, an intermittent pulse rarely occurs in a healthy state. Instead, an intermittent pulse is usually associated with a diseased condition. The mechanism of the appearance of the disconnection of the vessel qi in these three uneven pulses is nothing more than the obstruction of excess pathogen leading to an unsmooth flow of qi and blood in excess syndrome, or in deficiency syndrome, exhausted zang qi, especially exhausted heart qi, cannot propel the continuous flow of qi and blood. Either case, excess or deficiency, can lead to temporary pulse stops. We need to combine the pulse strength, pulse rate, and other accompanying manifestations to make our syndrome differentiation.
Hi, Mary. What is the difference between choppy and knotted pulses?
Both a choppy pulse and a knotted pulse are uneven and slow. Still, a choppy pulse focuses on the unsmooth flow of qi and blood. The strength and rate are uneven. And a choppy pulse occasionally stops, but the stop time is so short that people rarely feel the gap existing. On the contrary, a knotted pulse stops more frequently than a choppy pulse, and the gap is noticeable and can be felt easily without doubt. A choppy pulse moves like scraping a bamboo pole. The rhythm is uneven and the flow is unsmooth without feeling apparent stops. A choppy pulse moves like boom, 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 boom. Your finger can clearly feel boom, boom. The two pulsations closely beat together, as if you're driving a car slowly over a speed bump. A knotted pulse moves like you suddenly put on the brake and pull your vehicle to a complete stop, and then quickly release the brake and drive on again. So it goes like boom, 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 boom. There is a skip or pause in the pulsation. The difference is noticeable. In terms of the indications, there are similarities or connections. A choppy pulse indicates a lack of essence and blood in the deficiency type, and qi stagnation and blood stasis or food phlegm retention in the excess type. When those problems further deteriorated and caused the disconnection of the vessel G, a knotted pulse appears. A pulse can be knotted and choppy in a complicated condition. If you find this video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe to it, and share it with others. See you in my next video. All the best!